Georgia versus Alabama. We might not see a game this good for the rest of the year, as crazy as that sounds, sitting here in week 5. But Georgia now -1.5 on the road in Tuscaloosa. And the interesting thing about this game, opened 2.5 in certain spots, has been bought down a little bit now, kind of teetering 2, 1.5, 2, but now settling in at 1.5 across most books here. And it obviously the big thing that jumps out, Alabama as a home underdog. The last time they were a home dog was 2007. So this is quite a unique spot, not much data on it. But Alabama at home, usually a pretty good bet. I believe they're 59. Where is it? Yeah, 59-2 in their last 61 home games. The 2 losses were to that LSU team with Joe Burrow that eventually won the Natty. And then last year, Texas. Remember, last year Texas went to Tuscaloosa and got a win. So 59-2 run, pretty good. But yeah, 2 of the big powerhouses in college football, obviously. There's a few ways I like to break down games, right? When there's not a lot of data, not a lot of systems like this game, there's not a lot of information on how this spot will work out. You really just got to kind of look at situation, matchups, and how the teams have looked so far through 3 games. So situationally, there's not really an edge on either side that I see. Both teams are coming off of a bye week, which is important because neither team has an advantage over the other. Maybe if you want to say the perspective of Alabama blew out Wisconsin on the road after Wisconsin's quarterback got hurt, Tyler Van Dyke goes down, he doesn't play for the rest of the game. Does that give them a little bit of an edge? Obviously, but maybe they would have blown them out either way. So that's one side you can look at. The other side is Georgia going to Kentucky and struggling in that game. As a 21-point favorite, they win by 1 point, and nearly lost the game outright. Is that good or bad? I can see both angles. I can say, there's some concerns there, and I can also see the angle of that's probably a good thing because they're going to hear about that from Kirby Smart for the entire bye, right? And now come back extra motivated, extra revved up. So I could see it from both angles. But to me, the situational spot here is pretty much a wash since both teams are coming off of the bye. So I'm not going to, give it too much weight. But looking at Georgia's defense, right? Because this is the interesting matchup to me is Bama's is how the defenses match up. They haven't allowed a touchdown yet this season. So that's the good part. Incredibly good at limiting explosive plays. They have barely, I think they haven't allowed a pass of over 25 yards, if I'm not mistaken, which is just insane. But their rushing defense is where you can get them a little bit, and that's how Kentucky had success. Outside the top 50 so far per PFF, defending the run. And they're going to try to limit Alabama's explosiveness on the ground. And Alabama, that's their one spot, right? Like if you're Bama, I want to run the ball in this game, and I want to run it a lot. Not only with the backs, but I want to run it with Milroe a lot too. In that SEC championship game last year, Milroe faced a lot of pressure, and he was sacked a bunch. And obviously those sacks take away from your rushing yards. But if you remove the sacks, he rushed for almost 70 yards in that game. So he's going to be a threat on the ground. The running backs are going to be a threat on the ground, and Georgia has to be ready for that. Carson Beck, I like as a quarterback. I like as a pocket passer. But, just objectively hasn't faced a good any great pass rushes yet this season. Bama, top 10 this year, pass rush getting to the quarterback. Could they disrupt him a little bit? That's a big concern for me. If I need a great performance out of my offensive line if I'm Georgia, because the one way you're going to beat this Alabama defense is you got to throw the ball. You have to attack their young, inexperienced, youthful secondary. Of course, they always have a lot of talent. This is a top program. They're going to have great recruits, great talent. But they're young back there. They've lost guys, turnover. That's where you have to go if you're Georgia. I got to be able to throw the ball, but I'm not going to be able to if I can't stop the pass rush. So those guys are going to be coming. Alabama's very good up front, very good in the trenches. So I don't think Georgia's going to have a ton of success running the ball here. I think they have to actually throw it in this game in order for them to be really effective. Then on the other side, in terms of, there's not many injuries in this game, but the one that I would watch out for is Mykel Williams. If he plays on the D-line for Georgia, that's a huge loss if they don't have him ready for this game, but it looks like he might or might not. It looks like it's a toss-up at this point. But on the other side of the ball, Alabama, how they got to attack Georgia is they have to run the ball. For the first time this year, they're going to have a fully healthy offensive line, which is a great plus for them. Actually, they had pretty much a fully healthy offensive line versus Wisconsin, but you saw the difference in that game versus the game that they played against South Florida. That game was much different when they didn't have their starting O-line altogether. So big plus for them to have the bye. Everyone's rested, and now their actual starting O-line group is going to be together. I think that's going to really help their rushing attack. Like I said, both for the backs and for Milroe. So that's very important. They need to be able to break off explosive plays, explosive runs against Georgia. I'm not going to sit here and say I love the matchup for Milroe throwing the ball because Georgia's done a really good job defending the pass, but they're going to have to run. They're going to have to get chunk plays, 4, 5, 6 yards on these runs and move the chains and sustain these drives in order to keep that Georgia offense on the sidelines. When it comes down to it here, the big question for me is, like I said, can Georgia do enough in the passing game? Remember, they don't have McConkey this year. He's in the NFL. They don't have Bowers this year in the NFL. They have dropped off a little bit in terms of the skill position talent that they have. So for me, the biggest thing is, can they sustain that? Can they pass against this Alabama offense not only effectively, but consistently throughout the game? They don't have anybody on this team, by the way. I have it in my notes here. Georgia doesn't have a single receiver with 2 catches of over 25 yards. So it's been spread out, and it's been a lot of short stuff. They're going to have to get it done through the air against Alabama. The interior is really good, but the secondary is where you can get them. Then on the other side, it's all about how many plays can Jalen Milroe make. He is the heart of the offense, the engine. Ryan Williams is a great weapon on the outside. They seem to have a good connection, but this is all about Milroe. He played pretty well in the SEC championship game last year that Alabama won. He's going to have to do that again in order to avoid the whole revenge thing that maybe Georgia wants to get revenge. And I like DeBoer, by the way, as a coach. I know Saban's gone, but I feel like if you watch the 3 games that Alabama has played, and I bet on the Wisconsin game, so I watched that, and I watched some highlights from the other games, I almost get the feel that they purposely have not shown too much. You kind of know what you're getting with Kirby and Georgia, but I feel like Alabama has purposely held back a little bit, and Kalen might be unloading the kitchen sink in this game and throwing out some stuff that we probably haven't seen all year long, which you kind of have to do in these types of games, right? You can't be predictable. So at the end of the day, though, to the number, I make it basically a pick. On the money line, I make it maybe like minus 115-ish to Alabama, small favorite to Alabama. It's really tough to get for me to get to this number with them as a dog at home. And this money line has come down. I got it earlier in the week at plus 110. That's where I'm going with this. Bama money line plus 110. I think I'm seeing minus 105s now, and maybe some even money. But I lean Alabama in this game. I'm on them in this game. So I just think I can get to this number, and I think they have enough advantages where they can get by here at home for a huge, huge win.